Hello and welcome to the final readings of Stories Honoring Native American Heritage Month. And tonight I'll be reading The Prize No One Could See from the Treasury of American Indian Tales. The dawn came slowly as the sun tried to fight its way through the mist that hung in the valleys. The spring had been cool, and for nearly a moon, rain had been drenching the ground. By mid-morning, the sun had burned away the haze, and its rays beat down upon the little Kickapoo village, warming and drying everything that had been wet and cold for so long. When little Snapping Turtle walked from his father's wigwam and saw the bright sun and the blue skies, he called to his father, who was still inside. "Father, father, come here. See, the sun has won. The storm clouds have run from the battle with the sun. Once again, we have light and warmth. Is this not a good reason for a celebration?" "Yes, my son, it is reason enough for you and your friends to celebrate, but we should be glad for the rain we have had because it makes the forest green and gives the streams new strength and makes the lakes rise so that all the animals may drink. Of course, it has also kept the young braves in their houses. So now that the sun is out again, we should have a celebration." "What shall we do, Father? Can we go on a hunting or fishing trip?" "Can we, Father?" "No, my son. There is no time for that yet. Now that the sun is with us again, there is much gardening to do right here in the village. But late this afternoon, we shall have a race to see who has lost the most speed during this lazy vacation. Go to the other young braves in the tribe and tell them that I, Big Snapping Turtle, medicine man of the Kickapoo tribe, will give a fine belt and knife as a prize to the young brave who wins the race this afternoon." "What kind of race will it be, Father?" "Oh, it would not be fair to tell you, my young son, for then you would have a great advantage over the other young braves. Just spread the news, and this afternoon we will gather in the meadow for the race." Eagerly, little Snapping Turtle ran to tell all the young boys to gather in the meadow north of the village in the afternoon for a race. He also told them about the prize that any young brave would want. Most of the boys he talked to were working hard in the gardens to make up for time lost during the rain, but enough they stopped long enough to listen excitedly to the news little Snapping Turtle brought. All of them said they would be there and then went back to work. The rain had been good for the seed, but it had also been good for the weeds. When little Snapping Turtle got back home, he went to work cheerfully with his father in their garden to clear out the weeds. Finally, the time neared for the big contest, and the young boys began to gather in the meadow. Soon every boy in the village was present, and Big Snapping Turtle stepped to the front to explain the rules. He first gave each boy a small container made of birch bark. After this had been done, Big Snapping Turtle signaled for all to be quiet. "A quarter of a mile from here, there are several small lakes," he said. "In one of those lakes, as you know, there are some very small fish. Each of you has a container. At the signal, you will run to the lake and trap a small fish. Making sure to keep the fish in the container, you will run back to the meadow. The first boy to return with a fish still alive in the container will win the race. Then, after the prize has been awarded, we will put all the fish you caught into the stream that runs through the village so they can swim to the great lake to the south." The boys waited patiently for the signal. When it was given, they shouted and laughed as they raced toward the lake that held the small fish. Little Snapping Turtle soon was far ahead of the other young boys. When he reached the lake shore, he waded knee deep into the lake and placed his container halfway under and then stood perfectly still, waiting for the curious little fish to swim into the trap. As soon As he stood there, quietly peering at the sandy bottom, several of the others arrived and began to follow his lead. Soon there were 15 or 20 of them spread out near the shore, standing motionless, waiting for the fish. Now and then a boy would shout that he had made a catch, only to find that the fish had escaped. Finally, patience rewarded little Snapping Turtle. With a flick of his wrist, little Snapping Turtle scooped his container into the water. When he looked into it, he discovered that he had trapped two fish instead of one. Quickly, he waded toward shore, and he saw that two boys had also trapped their fish and were on the way back to the meadow. He stopped only a moment to tear a large leaf from the plant that grew along the lake shore. Then he wrapped it tightly over the mouth of the container and started to run again. The two boys were running swiftly ahead of them along the trail, each with a container in his hand. Suddenly, one of the boys slipped and fell, and his container and fish went flying off into the brush. Now only one boy, Crying Hawk, stood between little Snapping Turtle and victory. Using all the strength he had, he began to catch up with the young boy ahead of him. As he began to pass Crying Hawk, he noticed that the boy was limping. Looking at the boy's feet, he saw Crying Hawk's moccasins were loose, and he guessed that a pebble must have fallen into one of them. The boy stopped to take a pebble out. As he did, little Snapping Turtle sped past him. Turning to look at Crying Rock, little Snapping Turtle found that the boy had just sat down and was crying. He stopped and went back to him. "What is the trouble, Crying Hawk?" little Snapping Turtle asked kindly. "I thought that for once I could win a game and my own new knife and belt, but a pebble has cut my foot, and I cannot hope to win now. I was lucky enough to carry my fish first, and I thought that I had a good head start. But as it always has happened, an accident will make me lose the race. I will never be a winner. Don't wait for me, little Snapping Turtle. If you stay with me any longer, the other boys will catch up with you." Then little Snapping Turtle remembered that Crying Hawk had never won any contest. He was a little slower than the other boys and not so skilled as many of them. He, little Snapping Turtle, had won many contests and many prizes. Quickly, he took off his own doeskin moccasin and slipped them in onto Crying Hawk's feet. "These will protect your feet," he told Crying Hawk. "Run quickly now, for you still have a chance. Take my container too. I have sealed a leaf tightly over the top, and little water will spill out. Today you will win the race." Crying Hawk started to complain, but little Snapping Turtle silenced him. He put the other boy up to his feet and shoved the container into his hand, sent him on his way. With the new moccasins, the boy ran more easily and soon was out of sight. Little Snapping Turtle picked up Crying Hawk's container and put his feet into the ill-fitting moccasins. He trotted slowly after Crying Hawk, keeping just far enough behind so the boy would win. He heard several pairs of feet moving swiftly along the trail just in back of him. From here to the meadow, the trail narrowed, and only one boy could use it at one time. So little Snappy Turtle kept his slow pace and kept the others from passing Crying Hawk. Little Snapping Turtle could see the clearing now and sped towards the meadow. There he saw Crying Hawk standing proudly next to little Snapping Turtle's father. He ran up to Crying Hawk. "Say nothing of what happened on the trail," he whispered. "You have run a good race, Crying Hawk." Soon all the boys were back and the inspection of the containers began. When Big Snapping Turtle had seen them all, he stepped in front and declared Crying Hawk the winner. Everyone cheered as the boy received the knife and belt from the smiling medicine man. Then they all started back towards the village to place the fish in the stream and then go home. As little Snapping Turtle and his father walked along the trail, the medicine man asked, "Where did you get that container, my son?" Little Snapping Turtle blushed as he looked up at his father, but his father smiled. It is well, my son. I knew each container that I had given out, and at the end of the race, you did not have the one you had started with. I also noticed the beautiful moccasins that Crying Hawk was wearing. I discovered, too, how big my son's heart really is. Today you lost a race, but the happiness you won is the best possible prize.